I
Today
think
we will going to
this will be little practical, so it will be uh, fun to learn.
yes, it is not practical. Everything is with business analysis. Everything is theoretical
Yeah,
rather than practical, but it's theory about the software development and understanding of the methodology. So we will going to talk about that.
yeah. I was talking about this one, waterfall, agile.
So
So yeah,
we will going to talk in this chapter. We will going to talk about SDLC, software development life cycle, waterfall methodology, rational unified process, spiral methodology, prototyping, rapid application development, agile methodology, and scrum methodology. So these are the topics for the chapter. So I try to create more graph for this one because there's a lot of things I can explain from the graph. So over here you can see that this is a general idea. You can break it down into multiple things as well as much as you can. It is not uh, you know uh, every time it's supposed
can
to
you
be.
take just, yeah, can you take one slide back so that I can take a screenshot for the topics? Yes,
You have the entire
thanks.
slides.
Yeah, but these are the things which like in shortcut, try to like day by day what I did today.
You have the entire slides, the entire files, right?
It's in videos as well.
Yeah, it's in videos as well.
Yeah, but from my understanding, what I mean, like every day, whatever we are having conversations, just trying to make some point notes so
Okay.
that
Yes. Yes. Yes.
like in short.
Yeah.
That's it.
Tell me whenever you are ready.
Yeah, I'm ready. I'm ready.
Okay.
That's it. I already did.
Okay.
Thank you.
So SDLC, software development life cycle, is the process. How any of the software think about anything, a scripting to a huge software like Google search engine. Anything follow these steps. You can break it down and go into the details as well. But generally, this is a very general, high level idea. What on each step, what we will going to talk about, what we will going to do, everything, right? So it always go in a circular motion. So after whenever we hit the 360, after that we will going to do the same kind of stuff. So it is repeating itself every time. Software development is going in a circular motion, going into loop every time and repeating all those things, whatever you are doing, whatever you are making in progress, and suppress those things, the mistakes whatever you have done, or learn from your mistake. That is a part of the process. Nobody is perfect. You will learn, your team will going to learn and evolve. If you are failing fast, learn fast and develop fast. That is the methodology of agile. But for the software development, generally it is the methodology of everything. So first is initiation. So initiation is the phase where business case and project charter are created and present the sponsor for the approval. So whenever we are in a very initial phase, so this will we will going to talk about as a on a project base, because we are a business analyst. So we will going to based on the project base. So whenever any project will going to start, the business case will going to be implemented, but it will be applicable to the task and subtask as well. So this is you can represent all the things associated with the software development on high level, as well as a very smallest unit of the software development. One day work you can do same kind of stuff as well. So initiation, where we're going to talk about business cases, all the sponsorer and approver will going to define that we will going to make a progress, we will going to develop a software, we will going to do a project, something like that. So the following tasks take place in the project initiation phase. The concept proposal. So whatever the concept we will going to do, some will going to say we will going to enhance some functionality of the existing system, we will going to make a correction, we will going to replace our batch processing, rather than we will going to do a streaming of a data where live data will going to stream to the consumer, and it will be live, as whenever it's changing, it will be available for the user to consume. So something like that. So all the concept will going to propose, taking to the business sponsorer to know high level requirement and the overall concept of the project. So whatever want to achieve by doing some certain things in the project, you will going to define over there. System cost, scope and boundary. So whatever the system scope is or your boundaries is, you will going to define over there to know from the sponsorer's perspective the scope, what does in the project or life cycle of the project we can do, or what is outside of the scope as well. So whatever the budget is decide for any project, we will not going to uh, go beyond some certain things, right? Because project always has a constraint. We have limitation of time, resources and money. Cost cost benefit analysis, to know how much is going to cost. Everything we will going to talk about everything in a detail, that how much it will going to cost about developing some certain feature in the functionality, if we are replacing the batch processing system and going with a live cloud based system which will going to publish data live all the time, how much it will going to cost, how much it will going to cost, costing of maintaining the system as well. Because once you buy the car, that is not the end of the process, you are invest in the car, that is the starting point of investing in your car. You have to pay every time whenever you use your car. Every year you have to put money in it. So it is a kind of investment. Similarly, whenever you are developing any system, the system has to be maintained, it has to be up and running all the time. So it will require some human attention as well as some machinery attention as well, right? Monitor tools, everything. So it will going to cost you some certain thing. How much it will going to cost, and decide if the application should be built in house. So if we are going through some certain analysis, some tool is required, are we able to use a third party tool, or we can use or build in house? That would be the better idea, right? So everybody will going to discuss all about those things. The information from the IT major may be useful and understand technology piece of project and discuss with some vendor. So whenever we are discussing with these kind of ideas, at that phase, costing and benefit, you will going to talk about some vendors, means some of the company providing some certain tool. Suppose cloud system with AWS, GCP, you will going to see, do some research on that, how much it will going to cost, right? And then choose the correct fit, particular fit in with your budget and with your requirement. You will going to choose that cloud services. Feasibility study. to check the project feasible or not, and if the project should get and go ahead. So you will going to check the feasibility and check it out that whether the project is feasible or not, right? Risk analysis: identify, analyze, and prioritize all the project risk. So whenever you're doing something, developing a project, there is a risk associated. So you have to identify at the initiation. You will going to identify all the risk. You will going to talk about all the risk associated by developing some certain things, whether you will go with some uncharted territory or a new kind of development. There is a potentiality of risk involvement. If you are developing a new invention, right, a new product, there is a high chances of getting failure at the first phase, right? If we talk about failure of the product, if Samsung launched their what is it called, foldable phone, right? Not foldable. What is it called? Uh, the phone which can become a tablet. What's that phone called? Fold, right? Samsung Galaxy Fold. Samsung Galaxy Fold. So the first version of Fold, they have lots of problem. So it was failure at initially. So they fix it in 8 months. They fix it everything, and they relaunch the product, and then it becomes successful. So what happens? You are able to peel the plastic from the screen, right? So that is not good. Some people have some tendency to do some scratching over there. If you are able to do that, then it will peel off. So they put some protection over there. They also put some protection on the hinge of the tab, that particular phone as well. And now they launch Fold 2 as well. So whenever you do any kind of invention, that is an entire product. But think about the all phase, all the requirement associated with that particular project. There is a minimum risk involvement with everything. So you have to think about it, identify it, analyze it, and prioritize it, whether we need to take that risk, or we can avoid that. Stakeholder analysis, right? Resource onboarding. So whatever the resource you will going to hire temporarily for that particular project, developers, tester, everybody. So resource onboarding, you will going to create some kind of knowledge processing KT, knowledge transfer session, where you will going to provide knowledge based on the project, right? Kick out the initial phase, kick off meeting, project charter, impact analysis, stakeholder register, issues and risk. So these are the things you will going to do on as a in the meeting wise, right? Kick off meeting, project charter, impact analysis. Give me 1 second, right? Uh, so that is the image. Where is the image? We have somewhere that image. Somewhere here.
Yes, this one was, I think, last week.
Yes. So here identify stakeholders, stakeholder analysis, impact assessment, uh, create a project charter, everything. This is the initializing phase, right? Initializing,
Yeah. Yeah.
then planning, development, right? So this is the entire associated with, we can cross reference this as well. So I remember, so I thought that let me find out and then I will going to show you. So there is a reference, there is a cross reference. associated with this. Okay, so you can refer that as well. The second thing is requirement gathering. So these SDLC you can find over there as well in the project planning, right? Do you understand?
Yeah.
Okay. So the second thing in SDLC is requirements analysis. So it is containing hallucination, analyzing, documenting requirement is a primary role of this, associated with the business analysis, business analyst. And first, probably business analyst include in it, probably not. But in second phase, requirement analysis, that is the must do kind of a thing for business analysis. So you are included in it, requirement analysis. Verify, analyze, prioritize, validate baseline system requirement, provide the foundation for the design, development, and test phase. So you will going to draw a boundary related to the requirement. RPM, BID, FID are the part of this thing. Use cases, as is or to be process flow, RTM, update impact analysis. When you update and what would be the impact, you have to do that analysis as well. So all those things are associated with this cycle where you will going to work with requirement analysis. The third phase of any SDLC would be the design and technical development. Identify the requirement analysis phase to the unified system design that describe the characteristic of the application to be built. So you will going to identify the requirement analysis phase, unify the system design, what would be the design look like, describe the characteristic associated with your design, with the application to be built. Whatever the application you will going to build, your team will going to build, you will going to create a layout of it, architecture design associated with that. So software architecture will going to provide how we will going to deploy all the services, what kind of services it include in it, back end services, front end services, how they will going to deploy all the services to the cloud or wherever they are deploying, mainframe or cloud. So other than that, there is a front end development associates team will going to provide the entire mockup pages. If you don't know mockup, then write it down, note it down. What is mockup? So mockup is a it's the entire page look like how it will going to look like, but it is not an actual page. So mockup will going to created by the UX UI designer, the color combination and everything which will going to play a huge role in it. So it is a very important thing you need to understand. Key output of this phase is a conceptual architecture, functional design specification, technical design specification, update the requirement traceability metrics. So RTM where you will going to break down all your requirement into tasks and create a graph out of that, create a matrix out of that. Nowadays, you can create automatically through Jira using some automated tool. It is very easier to do so. People used to make it in Excel 10 days, 10 years ago, right? And it also include UX, UI designing, mockups, and everything. If the project has UX, GUI development or GUI development or user interface. The fourth phase of SDLC is development. As the name stated, it includes whatever the design architecture has provided. Based on that, the development team will going to work on that and write some code and develop the project. So it has to, as a business analyst, you have to make sure whatever the design architecture has submitted and whatever the product delivered by the developer, translate the same thing, whatever it is in on paper, it will going to look and feel into the live product as well. Before any stakeholder will going to notice, you have to notice because you are involved in those meetings. Stakeholders are the involved in the later part where you will going to do a team demo or something. So you have to make sure whatever is designed, it translate into correctly into code. So you have to see all the demos, small demo, big demo, whatever the development in every sprint meeting you have to involve in that. Most of the time you will do agile methodology, follow agile methodology. All the teams do. Waterfall is outdated. Business analyst role is a minimal in this phase. In implementation phase, BA role is explained to gather requirement to developers and answer the queries about system raised by the developers. But you have to make sure whenever you are, any developer is submitting, it is going to transfer whatever the system design agreed on. It will going to reflect that thing. Main task in the implementation phase would be the build component of the solution. You will go, developer will going to build that. Review code, developer will going to review the code. Conduct the unit testing. Unit testing is a part of the development process. So write unit testing, integration testing, smoke testing as well, and do some dry run. That is part of development. They will going to do that. Individually develop and tested component into the executable application. Small component will going to develop and all the test cases associated with that. And it is part of the job of lead developer to make a benchmark, how they will going to write the code. Transition of application to the testing. So whenever they are developing, they will going to provide, how to test and everything to the test team, QA team. Create the implementation backout plan to assist the project manager and monitor implementation effectively. The plan action needed if the associated change or release fail. So whenever they are releasing something, everything is failing, then there should be some backup plan should be ready. If something will go in the direction of south, then you have to refactor or uh, go back to the previous state wherever the application is working. And for the development phases, there are a lot of programming languages. You already know some of the programming languages, so I will not going to tell you what are the programming language and you know in how they code or what kind of programming language to develop a code. Testing phase. Testing is a part of QA, quality analysis, and they make sure that uh, whatever the requirement is, based on that all the functionality and everything will going to hit. They will going to create a BDD document based on the requirements, and BDD will going to something like in a very English language, it will going to say that we have a login requirement, so user has to be login. If provide wrong password, there has to be validated. So something like that. If we are not able to log in, then you are able to reset the password with your correct email address. And there are some certain steps to make sure that that user is authenticated or not. Or you can use OTP one-time password with your hooking up your secondary cell phone or something like that. So send a notification over there, right? So these are the steps QA will going to take care and validate whatever is developer developed is authenticated or not. So first part of is unit testing. This is usually done by developer, but in some cases it is done by QA as well. we see that those kind of things happen in the industry, but most of the time it is a part of a duty of developers. The second is integration testing. This is done by QA, but you can see a lot of time it is done by um, developers. System testing, in some teams, system testing done by not by QA but by developers, but it is prioritized to QA. So system testing. So do you understand? All this testing. What is the difference between them?
Yeah, maybe I have like a
What is unit testing?
like a single unit. If you see, I'm not sure, but uh, like like say you develop something, right? Without going in too much detail, if you test that little part that you just developed, maybe it is unit testing.
How about you, Abdul?
I mean, even I was thinking the same, but instead of like uh, any like not half of or just one uh, certain thing, but let's say for example, like 20-25% work has been done. So not, I mean, they are not testing like complete, but wherever they find any kind of uh, default or something like that, that particular thing need to be tested instead of testing like whole process. Let's say one application is almost ready to deploy, but they are getting some issues in terms of if they receive so many messages, it might hang up. So they just test that reason, like why it's happening, instead of getting like or waiting to end result.
So you're supposed to ask the question. I'm just going through all those things, and somehow I struck that I didn't explain all the testing types. So unit is the smallest component in the software. It's called unit. Smallest component in the software. So you have method, you have a function, it will return something. That is the smallest unit. With single method, single function, you will do a single operation. That is called unit. In a very that is the particular definition for the unit test. So you will going to test that function or method or the smallest component in the software, whatever you have developed, that is called unit testing. So unit testing based on positive, negative testing, you will not going to think about anything else but that particular unit. You need not worried about you are calling 15,000 methods inside of your function. You only think about your particular method you have developed or function you have developed. On the other hand, integration testing is integrating particular units together and cooperatively working together. So, if I tell you in a very simple example, have you seen any of the gearing mechanism of clock? Have you opened any clock or see all the components associated with that? Yes, no?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Okay. Like I've not opened up a watch.
But have you seen somewhere? So just YouTube about it, just go through it. So when you see the clock mechanism, there are lots of gears. They are turning gears, and because of that, the entire clock is working. So all the gear you can consider as a unit, and when two, three gears, coherently work together and do some certain things, you can say that is called the integration. So when you're going to test your single unit whether it's working correctly or not, and you are joining all those unit and make it an integration testing, that is called working together with other units. So some unit call some other unit, they are doing some operation, they are returning some value. So all the components joining together and how it will going to perform. In software industry, integration testing is represented by a module testing. You have some module has some functionality, you will going to test that particular functionality, and then you will going to think about whatever the method, whatever the class is it will going to call, or function it will going to call, you need to test it. How how uh, you know how coherently work all together, right? The third one is system testing. System testing is whenever you are deploying something somewhere, and system is associated, some machine is associated, some environment is associated. You will do the entire stuff, you will going to test out the entire system over that. Then the fourth one is regression testing. So with regression testing, whatever you will going to test, whether you have worked with current part, whatever is exist, and the new part you have developed, it will going to work, or gel together or not. Suppose you are making a clock and you are adding one gear, so that gear, new gear, but and also whatever is existing, you will going to test it. And the final, that is a part of regression testing, is a part of qa is the primary ownership of that. So you have to make sure it is work synchronously, whatever it's supposed to be, however it's supposed to be. That is a part of the process. And UAT means user acceptance testing. It involves the user. This is a very very low level, or a very last level of the testing, where you will going to test it out from the user perspective, how it will going to feel or behave. In user acceptance testing, user supposed to be not technical, that is not necessary to test it. So the user supposed to not know, or it is not necessary to know how the system is performing or working, but from user perspective. And whatever doing UAT, he or she will going to make a note of everything. I click in a username, I enter my username, I enter my password, I click on login. It will take zero point 0.4 second to log in. Everything. This is a documentation of UAT. This is a very long and very descriptive, whatever the operation user will going to do from the user perspective. The sixth one is stress and load balancing. Whenever load balancing means, whenever you are deploying your application somewhere, so whenever the load will going to come, your application is used by 10,000 user, and all of the sudden your application is used by consumed by 1 million user. You have a limited responses, right? You have limited resources, so it will going to respond or behave differently with 1 million, right? So they will going to do a testing for that as well. I think in that testing, DevOps team is heavily involved, and most of the cases you will see the DevOps team will going to do that testing. Incremental integration testing, check for bugs encounter when module has been integrated or existing. So whenever the module you are going to integrate it, you will going to do a incremental integration test. So you will going to integrate an incremental integration test. So you will going to create. So there is a two module you already did. Somebody develop a three module. So you will going to do a three module test and with two other module tests, right? Just like we are doing with the existing system, and we can say that that is a regression testing, but incremental integration. They say that something like this. Smoke test. The smoke test is a very simple. You will build a house and fire it out, and you will going to check it whether there is a leakage or not. You build a car, then you put a smoke inside, and you will going to see that whether it has a leakage or not, right? That is called smoke test. So in software, basically the functionality of a program, if fails, then program is not sent to failure testing. So we will going to avoid it using a exception handling. So that is, eliminate whenever you are doing a very good unit testing, it will going to eliminate all those things. A smoke test will done by manually. They will do manual testing for them. But a good developer write a good test cases, good unit testing, then there would be no bugs or issue associated with that. Keys output of this phase would be the test plan, test cases, test result, and performance report. What is the performance report? Right? We did the load balancing, stress stress testing. So it would be right. In some organization, BA role involve in testing as well. Tasks like creating a reviewing testing cases, identify UAT scenario which would be the suitable for testing, mapping, casing, UAT documentation, organize the BA role is the minimal in test phase. He or she is present to be support the testing team to explain the system to them. So what it implies that in some organization, you were asking Abdul yesterday, right? SAP. So this is one of the classic example. QA and BA, QA and BA role. So you need to understand how to do user acceptance test, and you need to explore those documentation as well. It is not a huge thing. You are able to do this. We will going to talk about this on marketing strategy. The sixth stage of SDLC would be deployment and maintenance. Deployment start after the code is approved and tested, approved for release. Right now, most of the time they have CI/CD pipeline, continuous integration, and continuous development pipeline created by DevOps team, which is basically whenever the code is approved, it is automatically code picked from your repositories, your version control, and it will going to deploy a new version of the code into production or sandbox wherever they are created the CI/CD pipeline. But earlier it was manual, maintaining, enhancing software and open newly discovered problem or new requirement. The software should be developed, accommodate changes that could happen during the post implementation period. So after the implementation or deployment, you have to do maintenance, a little bit of maintenance, right? So this is the whole SDLC idea. Any question, concern?
Yeah, so little bit confused between integration testing
Mhm.
and regression testing.
So integration is what? You are co-joining multiple units on the same module and test it
Yeah,
out, right? Integration is you have a cross module and you are testing out the cross module things. And there is a regression testing, whatever is existing component and whatever is new developed. With integration testing, you will going to test out your module, means developers module, whatever develop a new one. With regression testing, whatever is existing, the system is existing, you know In a
Yeah.
microservice component based architecture, there are multiple components is there, right? You have created
Yeah.
one or two components. So in one or two component, there are multiple modules. So you will going to test that those things. So those are called integration, right? And the regression testing, you will going to check with the already existed with the newly developed, how it will going to work, right? And there is a one more testing, end to end testing. End to end means, after developing the entire stuff, you will do a dry run. Like dry run means how it is an industrial standard language with the dry run. There is no dry run with software development, but people, everybody used to says that, and it will going to adopt that word from other industries. So whenever they develop any project or some plant, suppose let's take an example of milk plant. Let's talk about Amul. So Amul has developed some pipeline. It will going to supply some milk or some whatever you like, butter or something in the pipeline. So what happens once they build it? They will do dry run. Dry run. They will not going to put butter right away. They will put water or something, and they will going to check whether anywhere leakage we can find. If there is a leakage, then they will going to fix it. So in our thing, it will be dry run, like end to end testing. So from the beginning to the start of the process, the entire stuff, and it will going to see the behavior of the entire newly developed code working with old one or existing system. End to end testing, that is part of UAT. End to end testing,
Yeah.
UAT.
That's what I was thinking.
Yeah. But UAT is only for the user perspective. So
Okay.
whatever the user can see and look and feel and everything, right? User can click
Yeah.
and everything. User clicking something, there is a thousand background jobs is running in the back end. You never
Yeah.
know about it. So as a QA, a technical QA will going to take care of those things. So you have to make that thing in mind that So this is the table for whatever we talked about SDLC, and you know who who has the main role in this particular phases, right? So whoever is responsible, initiation project manager, he is the main responsible person. Sometimes BA, sometimes not. Requirement gathering, 100% is business analyst, 100%. Design, architect, system architect, whoever is associated with the architecture role. Implementation, developers, right? Development, implementation means development basically. Testing, QA, developers is also part of it, and sometimes BA, UAT, and all, not technical stuff. Deployment, DevOps, most of the time DevOps, and BA has to monitor everything. So this is
I
the
think
end.
BA comes in the picture in the beginning and at the end,
Yes,
like
BA.
initiate
No,
and
no,
requirement
not
gathering.
just only beginning and the end, but he or she has to make sure in the development as well. Development is a circular process, right? You will do some
Yeah.
certain things, you will test it out. It is not
Yeah.
going through a waterfall like model. Development means only development.
Yeah.
Developer,
Right.
whatever the small component they will going to develop, they will going to pass to the QA people, and QA people will going to make a correction or whatever it is, approve or reject. If approve, it will
Mm.
go to the DevOps for the deployment process, right? So it is a
Yeah.
circular motion. So your part, your role is very active. And everybody during the development phase, testing phase, deployment phase, everybody will going to ask you that what's going on, what is the status. So you have to update all those statuses.
We have to get those testing reports and everything from the testers
Yes,
and
yes.
show it to the one who
You
is
have to
asking us.
gather and involve, because it is a very interactive role where you have
Yeah.
to involve in those meetings. You will be not interacting with them every day, but you are a part of daily stand up where everybody will going to share their day to day work and their plan about it. You have to involve, right? And you have to understand where they are. And on the scrum board as well, you have to keep an eye and check out that whatever the developer is working, whether they are able to complete that in the certain time frame whatever is decided. And also, you are part in the scrum planning as well, planning meeting,
Yeah.
and the retrospective.
At the
So
end.
yes, at the end of the uh, sprint planning and
So,
sprint end.
Scrum planning, is it at the beginning? Because or is it sprint planning, not Scrum planning?
Yeah, Scrum means sprint planning. It's called sprint
Yeah.
planning. So sprint is the repetitive uh, timeline where you will going to work on some certain task.